We in Embrace believe there will be a referendum.
Hiyo pesa ya referendum kwanza iletwe, inunue machines za kuscreen cancer.
Ama tutabadilisha katiba, lazima ipunguze mzigo.
Wamama si mzigo, sisi tunapiga kura.
Alafu ati mtu anasema punguza mzigo, jipunguze wewe kwanza.
Na ikiwa hiyo hatutaifuata, basi wengine wote wanacheza chakacha bila ngoma.
Ile ambaye tuna shida nayo ni mtu kutumia njia ya mkato kujaribu kuingia Ikulu. Ndio maana handshake iko.
Of course, welcome ladies to the show tonight, and from the top I'd like to mention this. You'd probably see that we only have one section of the women movement in this country, that's Embrace. We indeed invited Inua Mama faction, and they let us down. They disappointed us. They were not able to come to the table and have a healthy discussion with their counterparts here. But all the same, we are going to have a discussion that is worth your while. So stick on sidebar. Let's begin the discussion, and I want to ask the two ladies.
Can I say something there?
About what?
I want to say that you don't have to worry, because
yes,
Inua Mama, Embrace, we are all women, and Embrace is actually inclusive and fighting for all women, or putting the agenda in case for all women.
But there's a division.
So it is okay.
There's a division.
It's okay that
yes.
we are here.
Okay.
And
to represent.
we are equal to the task.
Okay.
To represent women.
Mm-hmm. Karibuni, but
there's not a...
There are two factions.
It's what we believe in, Ken.
But there are two factions.
From my end, I think clearly, from a citizen's point of view, from an ordinary observer,
you agree with me.
There seems to be a divide.
There seems to there is a divide.
There is a divide. There is what Inua Mama seems to be pushing politically,
yes.
and there is what Embrace seems to be pushing politically. Inua Mama has aligned itself to a certain political faction, and Embrace has also aligned itself.
Which is very unfortunate, because I'm going to ask you this question.
We have not. First of all, let's start.
Yes.
We are behind the head of state.
Exactly.
So if you are behind the head of state, I think you are then in Kenya. Yeah, I've never seen a country where you say you will not be behind your head of state, you want to be in your own whatever.
But I'd like to say that we are not, we're actually not behind the head of state just because he's the head of state.
Yes.
We are behind the head of state because of what he stands for and the agenda that is putting forward.
So you're agreeing with me between the two of you that there is a divide.
Yes. Agenda of unity, agenda of equity.
You need to show me
that
the
is why
I'm going to show you the divide.
You see,
I'm going to show them the divide.
I find this very interesting, because I think we are living in interesting political times. Had there not been a handshake, I doubt if Mheshimiwa here would say we are behind the president. If there was no handshake,
if you heard me clearly, that is why I've said we are not behind the president
because
just
he
because
is the
president.
Yeah.
We are behind the president because of what he stands for and because of the agenda he's putting forth to Kenyans. We know that as women, we are the ones who suffer the most when there's upheaval after elections, for example. So when we find two men coming up to say that we have an agenda for this country, so that after any election, Kenyans should not suffer anymore or should not cry anymore. Hey,
so you've embraced it.
Behind that man.
There is no way women can be boxed into one corner. You are looking for space.
Yes.
And that's what we believe in. And therefore, the formations must be as many as possible.
So you agree there are different formations?
Listen, so that these formations, in the end of the day, who are you speaking? You're speaking about women issues. I am saying, when I'm on that decision-making seat, and when I'm seated with the men, there is one agenda I'm only carrying. The
women agenda.
And therefore, whoever is on that side and this side, in the end of the day, there is consensus that what we're bringing on the table...
It's about women.
It's about women and the space we are fighting for.
And I don't...
And it's a strategy.
And personally, I don't disagree. I always say that if the more the hands in the cookie jar, to push for better governance, to push for the rights of women, to push for the enfranchisement of women, the better for us. I mean, look at the history of women across the world fighting for their inclusivity or for their rights. For instance, I'll give an example of America's fight for the right to, to suffrage, basically the right to vote. It took women from various different platforms, women who supported different, Democrats and Republicans, women who are aligned to these different movements, came together for the interest of the women in Kenya. And so for me as a citizen sitting on this side of the table, I would want to really understand that, you know, I'd want to critically analyze between these two movements and try to understand that, is there really an agenda for the woman back at the village, you know? That if I listen to what the Embrace women are saying, and if I listen to what the Inua Mama are trying to push for, do I see my rights as a young woman catered for? Do I believe that my mother back in the village has her rights and interests catered for? That at the end of the day, not just their rights and interests mentioned as one of the platforms, or rather as something to sugarcoat your agenda, when your true intention is to fight for your own, you know, amassing of power. So I just want to understand, and I hope that this
you'll understand.
Yes, and I hope that
let me begin right there, because I want to understand, what are you embracing? What are you embracing?
Ken, do you know the meaning of embrace, first of all? If you let me know what you think of embrace, then it would be a good point to start.
You tell me what you're embracing.
Embrace, in the simplest of meaning, means bringing together. Okay. Now we know that after every general election, and even after the latest general election, we know that the country was not together. We know about the demonstrations that actually went on for a long time after the general elections. And we also know that even now, there is a great feeling amongst the Kenyan people that probably there is no inclusivity, and two main ethnic groups seem to take it all.
Yes.
So we know that there are those discomforts. Now, when we are talking about embrace, we are trying to heal the nation. We are trying to bring the nation together. We are trying to say that Kenya is for all, regardless of where you come from. Kenya is for all of us, regardless of the gender that you might have.
When I hear you,
yes,
it seems there's an ideology behind embrace.
There's
an ideology.
There is an ideology. Yeah. What do you mean? Of course, there must be an ideology.
And the ideology is very clear.
Yes, tell me.
That as women, we would want to see inclusivity and unity in our country. And don't forget, Ken, you've looked at us when we go to our campaigns, you find that we are so antagonistic to each other. And you find that within that campaign, after the electioneering, we'll always have violence, we'll always lose property, we'll always have very divisive politics that bring in now the tribal line. And as women, we are saying, honestly, as we go to 2022, let us try and ensure that this country, first of all, we are back together, regardless of our political divide. We are able to sit on the table, that I'm able today to sit with Honorable Rosa and talk about issues of women and development of Kisumu, which at one point, I wouldn't have cared whether Rosa has development in Kisumu or whether Kisumu is, in fact, we had reached a point as a country, we believed we don't need to find others developing. In fact, everything should be of one side. And I think that is one thing the president came out very clear, and the right honorable. And they say, look, and it's good to be very honest. These are two families that have brought us neck to neck. And for the first time, the sons are saying, look, Kenya, where we've started with our fathers, today we want to rectify this mess. And for me, that is one thing I remember. We kept on praying as women. We would meet and say, Rosa, you know, I can't come to Kisumu. If I get to Kisumu, you have no vote. You'll be stoned.
Exactly.
But you are trying to see, I would want to see her in parliament because I know she brings in an inspiration where women will look at her, and that development agenda is clear of what she wants.
Is it easy for you now to go to Kisumu?
Absolutely.
And walk the streets?
And walk the space and do anything.
Just
tell Rosa,
only walk and go to Kondele
So for me, I would not, without appearing as if I am going to downplay the importance of peace, inclusivity and unity in this country, I would want to really question. You see, for me, my question and my worry is that these two women groups, let's talk about the group that is currently seated here.
Yes.
Embrace is talking about inclusivity and unity, and basically trying to prevent the reoccurrence of 2007 and 2017 divisive politics. But you see, my problem is that when women find an opportunity to be able to represent the interests and the concerns of women, do they actually identify what the women on the ground consider as their greatest concern, or do they piggyback on a bigger agenda?
Let me
promoting a bigger agenda of two big political players in the political field?
Yes.
Or do they actually sit down and find out what do these women on the ground really want? Because if you ask me right now, I always say this, that the only way one would be involved in violence as a player in violence, as women most of the times get involved in violence mostly as victims. But the only way that one would be involved in violence as a player is when they are not economically empowered. At the moment right now, the woman back there in Mashinani, the girl back there in Huruma or Kayole right now, her greatest concern is that, fine, I have finished school, I don't have a job. Where do I get employment from? There are no employment opportunities for me. So what do I resort to?
And you think this is not doing that?
Let me finish. So what do I resort to? I resort to either prostitution, or I resort to, you know, petty crime. For the woman back at home, her greatest concern is that she doesn't have a source of income. So she cannot be able to take her children to school. She cannot be able to afford basic medical care for her children, and so as a result she continues being disenfranchised. So when women get platforms like this, when women find a way to fight for the agenda of the greater common good of women at platforms such as Building Bridges Initiative, do they actually present what concerns the woman, or do they piggy? Because let me tell you, the Building Bridges Initiative has its bigger goal, but in as much as the
what is its bigger
unity,
goal?
And in as much as
its bigger goal?
Unifying Kenyans and preventing, unifying Kenyans and you know, basically pushing cohesion within the country.
And for what purpose? To answer all those things you're coming up with, about youth not being employed, about all those can only be achieved if the bigger goal that you're talking about, BBI, is actually achieved.
But you see, the thing is, cohesion, at what point does Kenya fight? We only fight during, and I'll be honest, we only fight during elections. And for how long? If it goes for so long, like 2007, for about 3-4 months, that's the longest we've ever fought because of elections. So when we finish fighting about elections, trust me, Kenyans usually, for some reason, and I think we have a God-given gift of just finding our way together, back together. So what happens to these concerns that will continuously be there?
First of all, let me just say this, Ruth. The absence of war does not mean
the presence of peace.
Okay? And we are not talking about just the physical fight. The physical fight happened after elections. Okay? But even now, are we cohesive? And that is why I started by saying that there's a great feeling amongst Kenyans that there is no inclusivity, that two ethnic groups seems to have taken it all after elections. And because of that, people cannot be cohesive, people cannot be as productive as they'd like to be, people cannot be peaceful, but we can pretend that we are peaceful, which is just a facade. Okay? So that is what we are saying, that it's just not because of what happened, the demonstrations that happened last year. It is also because of what we're experiencing now. And this is not conducive to development for both men and women of this country. And that's why we're saying embrace. I'd like to tell you this. The inception of Embrace in April, you're talking about those young girls. You're talking about the Huruma women. You're talking about the women in Kisumu. Embrace brought together almost 300 women from all walks of life. You should not look at Embrace as a political movement. I gave you a chance.
Because
as a movement of just political women or women members of parliament or whatever you want to call it. Embrace brought women together. We took the initiative, but we brought women together from all walks of life. We had young women, and the head spearheaded by the president now, Anne, I think she's called Anne, the president of the university.
I saw that, yes.
She's young, and she was present.
Yes.
We brought women from all walks of life, the rural women. We brought Maendeleo ya Wanawake. Who is Maendeleo ya Wanawake? No. I gave you a chance.
But Ross, the question is, what are you doing with the...
I've not finished my drink. Let me continue.
The question is what you're doing with the platform.
What are we doing?
Are you piggybacking on that platform?
On a big agenda, or is there a specific agenda for the women? Yes.
It is a specific agenda for women. Everything we do is for women. When we talk about food and security, who is most affected when there is no food in the house? Isn't it the woman?
Yes.
Who goes out looking after? Don't you know that we already spearheaded and we have a program running with Jomo Kenyatta University just on food and security?
At Embrace?
As Embrace.
Okay.
You guys, you'd better know things that are happening in your country.
Back to your question.
Yes.
I think the most important thing is that, first of all, look at the membership of Embrace. Let's start from there. The membership of Embrace carries in Maendeleo Wanawake, carries in FIDA, carries in CRU, carries in the women teachers, it carries in AMWIC, all professionals, the women doctors. Why? So that when we meet, and I know Ruth was in one of our first meetings. She saw the whole. Don't run away from Intercon.
Give me photos. Give me photos.
No, I don't need
evidence.
I don't need
We'll take it to court.
But what I'm saying is it carries in young women, and the most important thing is that each of us will go back with an agenda that we carry. But don't forget, Honorable Rosa and others are also women elected in their counties. And therefore, when you are going to the county, you are going also with your program, a program that you carry, and you know it is an economic empowerment program. And we've always done. We are going to Kilifi on Friday. You'll see. The program is clear that when we come in, we are not just coming and talking. We are first ensuring you understand why we are there. And why we are there, we are saying, if it is, for example, in Kilifi, you know very well it is a strong ODM zone. Let us be honest. That time when Jubilee, we were campaigning there, it was so difficult for people to understand what is Jubilee doing here. After all, you are the ones who have taken our land. You are the ones. But today we are going back and saying, look, we know we have concerns, we have issues. And we know this handshake cannot just remain. It has to devolve. And the devolvement of that handshake, it doesn't mean it will be the president and the right honorable to take it. It is now the women and any other person who believes, I can go back to Kilifi and say, look, we have issues of land and we need to see government come here, resolve issues of land, bring your title deeds because you're a Kenyan like any other Kenyan.
Okay, and did you get an answer from them?
Just to give you confidence,
yes.
just to give you some confidence, because I think, and you are here asking it, but a lot of Kenyan women and Kenyan people are asking the same question. I'd like to tell you that when Embrace, for example, goes to make a presentation to the BBI, when they make contributions towards what they would like to see as governing Kenya in terms of the laws that govern Kenya, when they talk about opportunities for women, those opportunities will be for women across the ages and across the social divide. For example, when Embrace is talking about, can we have 50% in terms of appointive positions for all areas, national government and county government. It goes right down to the village. You know that the Constitution actually allows for village in the county government. In the village councils, when people will be appointed into that council, 50% will be women, 50% will be men. You will not find Rosa Buyu coming from the national government or coming from an MP to go and sit as a member of the village council. It will be the women at the grassroots. So when we lay down this, when we put up these proposals, it is for women across all the social divides, including the women at the grassroots. And
I know you are not answered sufficiently, but I'm coming back. She's not answered sufficiently. She still has a question. I'd like to take a short break just for 1 minute. When we come back, I'd like to begin.
Take the drink.
Yes, you take the drink on sidebar. When we come back, I'll begin with your question, because it is a supplementary question, and I still need to ask about just what they are embracing, because the argument from the other side, and I'll bring it here, is that there is calm, there's peace. You know, what peace are you spreading? What are you spreading around the country?
That's a facade.
I know you have said that, but I'm coming back. There's no
when resources are not equal.
There's no peace.
That's when Rosa will tell you.
No, when I'm hungry, you cannot tell me I'm peaceful. I'm just pretending because there's nothing I can do, but I'm hungry and I want you to solve my hunger.